Hello again, it's Peter Cowley here. I'm recording this on the day of the Queen's funeral actually in September. It's only just recently I've decided to get to share my experience in the last 10 months or so with you. So what I did was to record that formal introduction yesterday, and today I'm going to start a number of episodes of this vlog describing how I felt and what happened in the early days of the cancer up to today. So today will be the one from, oh sorry, not today, this one is the one from the very start through to a point probably where I had the CT scan. So first of all, why, well, I'm here because I've got cancer. What happened last year? So with hindsight, I realise now that I had the tumour in my right lung was probably growing from about Easter time last year, because I was coughing and had a bit of phlegm, which I just ignored it. The cough was only very occasional and the phlegm was clear. I spoke to a doctor about it and they weren't worried, and eventually I had a steroid spray, but that was later on in October time. So probably that was the case. I'll never know, of course, that the cancer was forming at that point from probably springtime. In July I had no, it's not relevant to the cancer, I had an accident where I fell out of a punt here in Cambridge, and as I was getting back in again I was being assisted by two people and one pulled slightly harder than the other, and I damaged a rib. That was important because that got me into the health system. So we moved forward through till I did a half marathon, a Cambridge half marathon in the middle of October. And just around about then, I was just found very occasionally I had a little bit of imbalance, so only about once a week, and it was most noticeable once when I came up to on a bicycle up to a give way sign, put my foot down and thought I was going to fall over. Anyway, so I hadn't even mentioned it to anybody until just before I got COVID. So that week was really quite heavy. So first of all, it was things were getting back to normal. We're talking about here the beginning of November, middle of November 2021, and I had done a number of events, one in London, a pitch event, start-up pitch event. There was one in Cambridge here with the launch of a film festival. I also had my third jab that week. I'd had 2 AstraZenecas and this was a Pfizer. And it also had, as it turns out, had an aortic aneurysm scan, which is normal for people, possibly men, over a certain age in the UK. So this was on the Friday. On the Saturday I began to feel a little bit rough. I blamed it, of course, on the Pfizer jab. On the Sunday I was feeling worse, but on the Saturday I actually took a COVID lateral flow, that was negative. On the Sunday I was feeling a little bit worse. And in fact didn't want to cycle, so Lies, my partner, I'll mention her many times, Lies as in Liesbeth, it's the Dutch name, Elizabeth in English, shortened to Lies, and I said I couldn't cycle into town. Could we walk? We walked, and I had a sort of funny turn or something and had to sit down for an hour or so. Came back again, and she'd spent the weekend with me. On the Monday morning I took another COVID lateral flow and that was positive, proving that I'd probably had COVID over the weekend, possibly even on the Friday or the Thursday. This was the back end of Delta before the Omicron started taking off. So I immediately booked a PCR test that proved positive, so I then spent about 9 or 10 days in isolation here in my home in Cambridge. What's relevant there is that on the Wednesday I had had an appointment with a GP who, about my ribs, which were hurting still after the punting, though there had been a few weeks of not hurting. And at the end of his consultation, he couldn't obviously feel my chest or anything, he thought I'd probably just bruised it badly. I said, and by the way, is it normal, is a symptom of COVID which I don't quite understand, I don't seem to be able to balance very well. And he said no, he wasn't aware of that, but I should come and see him. So I couldn't actually get to see him for a couple more weeks, so we're moving down here to the end of November, and at that I went to see him face to face. My balance wasn't very good at that point, but I could drive, and he did some tests. He wanted to check whether it's a neurological problem in the brain or an ear problem, a normal balance problem, and he got me to put one foot in front of the other as if I was walking down a tightrope, you know, and I couldn't even lift my left foot off the ground to do that. I just would immediately fall over. So that proved to him it was neurological. He, as he said goodbye to me, was pretty concerned, to say the least. I was much less concerned than him. Anyway, he said I should get a neurologist booked as soon as possible. I should point out this was a private GP, because getting hold of it, my GP here in Cambridge was really tough at that time, and although I worry, like many people, about how the NHS is gradually being privatised, my view is that if I can afford to pay, which I can, then it means somebody else can have access to my GP without paying. So anyway, so I tried to get a neurologist, and the earliest neurologist I could get was the 7th of February, which he said was far too far in the future. And tried to do something else. So that's the earliest one I could get myself. So he rang around himself, and he managed to find one about a week later, and then he found another one who could see me actually at 8:15 in the morning, so I suspect it was done as a favour, on the Tuesday, and this was on the Thursday. Over the weekend I was actually booked and already paid to go skiing with some friends. This is the beginning of December, middle of December, when the season's very early, so there wasn't much snow. Because I'd paid for it, I went with them anyway, but there's no way I could ski. I couldn't even walk very well on the snow. So I just sat there and read and watched them ski through the window. Should also point out at this point that, having done the half marathon, I was still doing 5k runs, but I couldn't walk slowly, so I would really struggle to walk around a museum. I would either have to touch things or have to hold onto Lisa's arm just to wander around an exhibition. So we get to the point where I come back from the skiing, and on the Tuesday morning I go to see the neurologist with Lise. He does similar tests, including, if you're watching this on video, touching your nose with both hands, following his hand around the place, his finger, sorry, and then he went and then kicked it out naturally into the waiting room. And then I came out a few minutes later and said he was flummoxed, which was a really strange word to use for obviously a bright and experienced neurologist. Sorry, I'm just checking the timing of this. At that point there, he probably had worked out what it was, that there was a tumour in my brain, but normally it would affect not just my balance, which is called ataxia, but other things as well. It would affect the coordination of my finger against my nose, etc. So he then tried to find it was a private hospital, still in the private system at this point. He went round to the MRI department. They couldn't fit me until went to the Friday. So at this point, I'm going to finish this vlog because it's about 8 or 9 minutes long, and I want to do this in parts. So all I know now is that I have 2 worried doctors. I tried a bit of Googling but got nowhere with that, because I'm quite frightened, of course, to see that. And we hadn't told the children, and I just moved on to wait till the Friday of that week. See you again soon.